Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for clicking on this video. So today I thought I would give you some of my thoughts on the iPhone 13 mini. This has been my daily driver, so what people call them nowadays when they have more than one phone, I don't know. But yes, so the iPhone 13 mini, I've had this for about a year and 7 months now, and I thought I'd just give you guys a quick review. This isn't going to be a super technical review. I am not like a professional tech reviewer, and there are plenty of other YouTubers out there who have made pretty in-depth technical reviews talking about this phone. So this is just my take as an everyday consumer and also a professional freelancing classical musician. I'll also talk through whether I think that a smartphone is enough for documenting your professional work as an artist. So I purchased this phone in May of 2023, I believe. Yes, so I bought this phone quite a while after it came out. Actually, I believe this phone came out in 2021 or 2022. I'll need to check that. But the reason why I decided to get this phone was because Apple wasn't going to be making mini phones, small phones anymore, and I just thought I'd wanted to grab one before they discontinued. Because prior to this phone, I had an iPhone 11, which I really loved. I bought that phone at the start of 2020 and it was totally fine, but the only complaint I had about it was that the screen was too big, and because I've got really small hands, it was quite difficult for me and cumbersome for me to use such a big phone. So I was able to trade in my iPhone 11 to get this phone. I believe the trade-in value for the 11 was about $400. This is the 128 gig version, and I believe it was going for about $1,000, so I was able to get $400 credit off of this phone, and I ended up paying about 600 Australian dollars for it, which is a pretty good deal. My husband also wanted to get the iPhone 13 mini as well because he liked how small and portable the phones are, because nowadays the phones are just getting bigger and bigger, the camera bumps are getting bigger and bigger, and we just thought it would be our last chance to experience a smartphone in such a compact, small form factor. So I'll start off by talking about some pros I have with this phone, having used it for the past year and 7 months. The size is really compact and small. I think it's 5.1 inches, so it fits really, really comfortably in my hands. It also fits really comfortably in any of my pockets. It doesn't feel too bulky, and it's so lightweight that sometimes I even forget that I have the phone. It's very easy to use because of the size. I personally still need 2 hands to use the phone comfortably, but if I'm in a pinch, I can definitely get around just with one hand. The battery does charge very quickly because it is a very small battery. I think it's 2,300 milliamp hours or something. I will need to check that and I'll put it down here, but I will talk a little bit more about the battery life later. I really like the design of the iPhone 13 because it's got the square edges as opposed to the rounded edges. I personally just think aesthetically it looks very clean, very pleasing to look at as well. And the design also reminds me of the iPhone 5 that came out in 2011, I think, and so there was a bit of nostalgia factor there for me as well. Because my goal for this phone was really just to get in contact with people and to do light web browsing, light app use, I didn't have a problem with the screen size. I actually think it's good that the screen isn't bigger because I don't want to be more addicted to my phone than I already am. This phone also, because it's within the ecosystem that Apple has set up, it syncs incredibly well with my other devices. I also use a MacBook as well as an iPad, and I do have AirPods, so it's just so easy in terms of connectivity and in terms of if I wanted to send photos or files or any sort of media, it's very easy through AirDrop. I'll talk about the cons of this phone that I found. Perhaps the biggest con of this phone is its battery life. Now, I mentioned earlier that because the battery is so small, it charges very quickly, especially if you use a charger that is fast charging, like a 45 watt charger or something. but unfortunately the battery life is pretty bad. It was okay when I first got it, but now that the battery health percentage is about 91%, so it's not even that bad, I can't get through a full day on one charge with my use case. And I wouldn't say I use my phone really frequently. I do need it to sort of communicate with people, and I do some very light browsing on Safari because I need to access booking systems and everything. So it's not like I'm scrolling on Instagram for hours, but it's not enough on one charge to get you from, say, 9 o'clock in the morning to 6 p.m. at night. I would find it a bit of a stretch to just go out with one charge and no battery pack or anything. It would make me a little bit worried. I would say perhaps I can get a good 4 or 5 hours of constant use out of this phone, 4 or 5 hours of screen time. It's particularly difficult when I'm traveling because we rely on my phone quite a lot for things like navigation or even paying. I use Apple Pay a lot, and I find that I haven't really been able to enjoy the lightweight setup of just having the phone itself. What I've had to do is use the Apple MagSafe battery pack to circumvent the battery issue. So what the battery pack does is it basically doubles the battery capacity of the phone, and I cannot tell you the amount of times that this battery pack has allowed my phone to last from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. at night for the whole day. How I use it is I make sure that my phone and the battery pack are fully charged, and I put the battery pack on at the beginning of the day. So as I'm going through the day and I'm using the phone will use the battery from the battery pack first. And once that's exhausted, I take the battery pack off and I still have 100% on my phone. I actually don't think they even sell this battery pack on the Apple website anymore, because I believe I heard from quite a few videos that it was originally designed for the iPhone minis. And so since they discontinued the minis, they've also since discontinued this battery pack. So I'm very glad that I got it when I did. So if you find yourself traveling in an unfamiliar location, city where you're needing to rely on navigation a lot, I would definitely not just use the phone by itself. I would put a battery pack on it, or bring a charger or a portable charger or anything, just to make sure that your phone stays alive. So that has been a pretty good solution for when we're traveling, except if I am in a place that has a very hot climate, then it's not good, because what happens is the phone tends to overheat, and when the phone overheats, it stops working with the battery pack, and basically the battery pack is rendered useless until the phone cools down. And the phone tends to heat up pretty easily on relatively simple tasks, such as, you know, if I'm texting or if I'm navigating for a very short amount of time. I'm not talking about navigating for like an hour or so. I'm talking about looking something up for 5 seconds to check out where we need to go. The phone still overheats, and so that's been a bit of a problem. The other thing is the iPhone 13 mini gets pretty hot if I'm doing sort of tasks that are a little bit more intensive. So for example, I am FaceTiming, I'm doing a FaceTime call with my family, the phone gets pretty hot. It's not anything uncomfortable to touch or anything, but things start slowing down, apps start to not respond as quickly. I also don't do a whole lot of video editing on this phone. I usually reserve that for my laptop because I am editing 4K footage, but occasionally when I need to make some very minor edits on the phone in-app, the phone can't handle it. Like, the app kind of shuts down because I think the phone just doesn't have enough processing power for it. But in general, if you're only needing to text friends and family or do phone calls, use it for some phone calls, then this phone is totally fine. If you are also one of those people who tries to spend less time on their phone, then I do think this phone will be really great for you. So now I'll address the cameras. Now personally, I don't use the camera that much on this phone, because when I need to take photos or videos or anything, I prefer to use a proper camera. That is just my personal preference. However, the cameras are totally fine for simple note taking. If I want to take a photo of some notes or of an ad that I saw that I wanted to check out later, then the cameras are totally fine. They've got the classic super clear Apple quality where everything's very flat, but it's totally fine. The other pro actually about this phone that I found is that you can do long form video recording and the phone doesn't overheat, which is very, very impressive, because some of my cameras can't even keep up with that. So with that, I find the phone actually to be quite a useful tool to get redundancy footage during my performances and recitals in case my camera dies. The quality isn't ideal because physics, the size of the lenses are just so small in comparison to like a whole camera body and the entire lens, but at least you captured the performance and it existed, and it is definitely better than not having it captured at all. I definitely think the phone is totally enough for social media. There are plenty of content creators out there who have built very successful accounts and channels just by using their smartphone, and I think it really at the end of the day comes down to the type of content you post. As an independent artist who's just starting out, if the phone is all you have, the only camera that you have, by all means use the phone. I was using a smartphone to record my performances during my university studies before the camera, and it was totally fine. In general, I find that for audition tapes as well, if you're making audition tapes, people don't really mind if you are just using the smartphone for video. You can get away with posting photos that you take on your phone on your website. It depends on what kind of photo it is. I would say if it's sort of just the background stock image on your website, then definitely the quality of the phone is fine. However, I would say if you're taking portraits, I personally do notice the difference, and I would always choose the portrait that was taken on a camera over the smartphone. I have found that since moving away from the smartphone and upgrading to a camera, it moves your archives away from the amateur feel and starts to give you a bit more of a professional look. In terms of phone cases, I own 2 phone cases. So I have the official Apple silicone case in the same color as my phone. I really like this one because it's got a really nice smooth feeling and it's super lightweight, so it keeps the phone really, really small. However, I've only had this for about a year and a half, and the edges are already starting to peel off. So for such an expensive case, I believe it was 80 Australian dollars, I am quite disappointed in the quality, but I will just continue using this until it completely falls apart. The second case that I have is this really beautiful mirror one from Caseify, and it is by a Taiwanese artist. I really like this case. Unfortunately, the MagSafe isn't as good as the official Apple silicone case, but it still works. Like, I can still put the battery pack on this, no problem. It just doesn't stick as well as the Apple silicone case. It sticks fine, but it's a little, just a little bit loose. See, it's like moving around. Whereas with the Apple silicone case, once it sticks on, it's pretty, it locks on much more securely than the Caseify case. The Caseify case is also a little bit more bulky than the Apple case, so it makes the phone feel just a little bit thicker and a little bit chunkier. So those are my thoughts and opinions on the iPhone 13 mini that I've had for almost 2 years now, and I really do still love this phone. I don't think I will be trading it in for anything, and I will use it until it dies. I do wish Apple had continued making small flagship phones, but I think the market is changing now and People don't want small phones anymore. I don't know what I'm gonna do when this phone dies, because I really don't think I can go back to big phones now. I really just like how small the footprint is with the phone and how easy and lightweight it is to carry around. I suppose maybe I'll have to try the Samsung flip phone because it collapses down into such a small package. But please, Apple, I'm hoping that the next SE phone will be a smaller size. If you've made it to the end of the video, thank you so much. I hope this gave you a little bit of insight into what it's like to use an iPhone 13 mini, and perhaps if you are considering picking one of these up, hopefully I've given you a bit of an idea on the pros and the cons of owning this phone. I would still definitely recommend it if you were in the market for something small, if you would like to experience a mini iPhone before it disappears forever. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.